First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to butter your casserole dishes. Because you're going to want to get the potatoes done. So you're going to need softened butter. Alright, you're going to need to pull some soft butter out immediately. Get it nice and soft. Rub butter on the casserole dishes. You're responsible for getting your own plate. So if plates aren't here, you're getting them. You don't need a lot, just enough to butter the outsides. You need two. When they're done being buttered, you're going to put them onto a sheet tray or a hotel pan. Right? This will allow us to for the drip factor, because when they start to cook, they're going to drip. Then you're going to take a small sauce pot. You're going to mince your shallots, mince your garlic, 1.5 ounces of clarified butter. Slow and low is the way to go. You're going to use the shallots in the recipe and the garlic in the recipe. Follow the recipes. When I change them, I will let you know. While they're sweating, really slow, really low, you'll peel your potato. You're going to need at least 2 potatoes. Make sure there's no eyes in them. You want them completely clean. Remember, you can always pull that off the heat, but at least have them sweat it off, sweating while you're cleaning your potatoes, so you're not wasting time. Tomorrow, each one of you will have 2 hours to do what takes 45 minutes. Okay? Now from here, what you're going to do is you're going to slice the potato as thin as you can. If the potato starts to rock and gets uncomfortable, shave off a flat side. You're going to come back to that though. You're not going to throw anything away. No color on the shallots or garlic. Sweat. If I see you starting to cut your garnish for your sauce or start to do anything else but your potatoes first, I will take points off. Because your potatoes are what's going to take the longest, not just to cook, but to make. Everything nice and thin. Come back to the side piece. Make that nice and thin. After they're cooked, they will have to rest. Resting is the most important part of this dish, because if you take them out of the oven and try to serve them hot, it'll be a wet, gooey mess. You cannot use a mandolin, nor can you use a box grater to cut your potatoes. Once your onions and garlic have sweated off long enough, you're going to add 1.5 cups of heavy cream. Yep. 1.5 cups of heavy cream. As you get your potatoes cut, you can go ahead and put them right into the heavy cream. Do not put the potatoes in water. The only time that you could put potatoes in water is right after you're done peeling them and they're still whole. If you put them in the water after you've sliced them, what are you going to lose? Starch. And the starch is a key binder for this dish. Okay? 1.5 cups. So now, we're going to cook the potatoes. We're going to start the cooking process in the heavy cream. It So you're going to need salt, pepper, nutmeg. Just a dash of nutmeg, not a lot. Then you're going to take the cheese that's in the recipe. You're going to save half for the top, and half is going to go into the mixture. So you've got two types of cheese in the recipe. You've got Parmesan and Gruyere. Half goes in, half goes on top. What we want to do is have our ovens at 300 degrees. We want to have the potatoes starting to cook in the heavy cream. And we want to start melting the cheese before we line them in the casserole dishes. Heavy cream is cold, but now it's getting hot. That's over the burner. You should start on the cold. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold, but you're not going to have time or want to eat it up.
That's Rachel. I'm so glad I could record it being done through yours.
What we want to do is we want to taste the cream now and see if it tastes good. If the cream tastes good now, the potatoes will taste good later. We want to bring it up to a simmer, but we don't want to boil it for any length of time. If we boil it for too long, we're going to lose moisture. Moisture is our friend right now, because moisture is what's going to help us cook these potatoes properly. So we just want to get up to a simmer, and you see, like right now, it's pretty thin. But once it starts to get up to a simmer, it's going to thicken. What's going to make it thicken? Starch on the potato. So once you start to see simmering on the outside, we're good. Turn the heat off. Evenly distribute all the potatoes into both ramekins. Add all of the cream. Do not leave anything behind, especially the cream. If you leave any cream behind, you're going to have issues. You're doing everything that I'm doing. The exact same way I'm doing it. So I'm just dividing the potatoes up right now. And then I'm going to pour the cream. Over the top. Then we're going to take the cheese that's left over and sprinkle it on top. Okay? Then it goes into a 300-degree oven. Until it's done. How do we know when it's done? The potatoes are tender. Too many times I hear, how long is it going to take? How thick did you cut the potatoes? How thin are the potatoes? Did you check the potatoes? If you check the potatoes and they're still firm, but there's no liquid left, pour a little heavy cream over the top. Give them that moisture that they need, okay? Let them go. They take around 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes in the oven, and that's what we're looking for. Okay? So now, at this time, you start to set everything else up. You start to measure out your equipment, all your stuff that you need for your sauce. We need mushrooms. We need 2 ounces of brandy. We need 2 ounces of white wine. We need shallots for our sauce. We need demi for our sauce. We need 1 plum tomato, concassate, small dice, and then chervil and tarragon minced up, ready to go. We're going to need butter. This is all just for our sauce. Okay. But you don't do any of this until the potatoes are in the oven. Once the potatoes are in the oven, then you can do anything in any order you want. I've seasoned my beef, medallions of beef. Alright, I've cut sweet onions. We have sweet onions in the refrigerator. One full onion will do an entire team of 4. One full onion will do an entire team of 4. Okay, you want them nice and thin. We don't want them too thick. What you're going to do with the onions is you're going to season them. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. And you're going to season a small amount of flour. You're talking 3 tablespoons of flour. And you're going to break the rings up. You want them to be round, but what you don't want is them sitting in a circle. Then you're going to mix them right into the flour. What's going to happen to them? Well, salt's on them, so what's the salt going to do to the onion? Draw out moisture, and what's the flour going to do? It's going to dry them out. It's going to help dry them out, and it's going to allow us to stick to the batter later. Okay? So that's done. All our mise en place is done. That's AP flour. That's just regular all-purpose flour. Okay? Then you're going to take 1 clove of garlic and you're going to slice it. Take 1 clove of garlic and you're going to slice it. You're going to take 6 to 8 pieces of broccoli rabe. You're going to cut them on a bias, right? All the leaves that come off. Everything else that stays on is on. And you're going to blanch them and chop them. Boil in salted water and you're going to have them ready. 6 to 8, yep. 6 to 8 pieces.
So the exact same way you're doing it right now.
Yes. You can get this blanched off at any time. You can get this one at any time. You can get this one at any time.
And is there too early for the potatoes? Like,
Potatoes should be the first thing we get in the
but
oven.
I'm saying that, like,
There is no too early. You only have 2 hours. Alright. So, once everything is prepped and ready, then it's time to make the beer batter. We're going to change the recipe that's on your recipe timeline. So pay attention to this. By volume, you're going to use 2 ounces of cornstarch and 4 ounces of cake flour. 2 ounces of cornstarch and 4 ounces of cake flour. So that's going to replace the AP flour that's in there. The reason why we're doing this is we're decreasing the protein, which is going to give us a crispier crust. Because a lot of times when we use the AP flour, we get these gummy and gluey and glutinous onion rings that are not crispy. So we're lowering the protein down by going into cake flour, which has a lower gluten content, lower protein content, and then we're also adding cornstarch to it. You're going to add your baking powder. Follow the recipe for the rest of the way. You're going to add salt and pepper. Mix all your dry ingredients together. No, it's black pepper. Mix all your dry ingredients. So all the cornstarch, the cake flour, the baking powder, the salt, the pepper, all the dry ingredients get mixed. Make a well. Add your egg. Add half a beer. You will only use the Budweiser tomorrow. You will not use any of the other beers. By volume, yes, the label. Now you're going to incorporate the beer and the egg into the batter. We want to just bring the batter together. We do not want to overmix the batter, because the more we mix the batter, what do we get? What do we develop? Right, gluten. We don't want a lot of gluten development. Even though we're using a lower protein flour, we don't need a lot of gluten development in this batter. The consistency of this batter should be that of pancake batter. Some lumps in there are okay. So nice pancake batter after cabaret. That's what we're looking for. Thick, but still flowing. now we have our onion rings in the flour. We have our flour, our batter. Our fryer is set at what temperature? 350, right? 350 to 360, somewhere around there. That's what we're looking for. We want to keep our eyes on it, maintain that temperature. We're good. Okay. Right before you use it, yep. Yeah, we don't want to lose the carbonation from the beer, and we will get carbonation from the baking powder, on the baking powder. Alright, so now, we're going to need 2 sauteuses. We got a medium and a small. The small one, we're going to start off with about an ounce of clarified butter and your sliced garlic from before. Once that's in there, you're going to start this slow and low. We're going to start to cook the garlic. Okay, what are we looking for? Yeah, light golden brown. In the other pan, we're going to start to get ready for the beef. Okay? All of these components are going to come together, and they're going to come together pretty quickly. So you have to make sure your plate's ready. You have to make sure, you have to make sure your potatoes have rested, and you have to make sure that everything else is set up to allow for you to succeed. Now, if you notice, I'm going to put 3 sets of gloves on, all in one shot. The reason why I do this is because the amount of raw and different fluids that I'm going to be using, I want to make sure that I do not cross-contaminate. Alright, so we want the garlic to become golden brown. We're going to condition the pan with the clarified butter. You want just enough clarified butter to coat the bottom of the pan. You take your meat, make sure your meat's nice and dry. How do we know when the pan's ready? Moving like water, a haze, right? Ripples, a shimmer. Good. Okay, so we got that haze. We're going to lay the meat away from us. We're going to get rid of the raw pan. We're going to turn the heat down to medium and allow it to cook. We have a light golden brown on our garlic. We're going to add our broccoli rabe. And 2 ounces of water. We're going to season the broccoli rabe with salt. It's peppery enough on its own. We don't need any pepper. You want to make sure you get the stems in the water. And let this cook. We're going to check our beef. Yep. We'll look for that beautiful Maillard reaction on the outside. Okay. Now I have a thicker piece and a thinner piece. So I'm going to pull the thinner piece out before I pull the thicker piece. Okay. So we can promote even cooking. We're going for medium rare again. Okay, so the thinner piece is out, the thicker piece is in the center. We'll let that thicker piece cook. Now our broccoli rabe is cooking, heating up. Now, what do you notice about the broccoli rabe? It's all facing the same way. Right? Why is it facing the same way? It's going to make it easier for us to plate. Alright, we're going to take our beef out, keep our beef in a nice warm area for now. We're going to add our mushrooms. Mushrooms go first. Creminis or shiitakes. Yep, like we've been doing all along. Okay. Now there's no fat in here, so we're gonna add just a little bit of clarified butter to help transfer that heat. We gotta watch that fond too. We gotta be very careful not to burn that fond. We're gonna add our shallots. Saute our shallots. Check your broccoli raw, make sure it's tender. If it's not tender, then by all means add water. Otherwise, keep it at a really low heat now, just so it stays moist and doesn't brown up. We want no sauteing. We want a pan steamer. Okay, now it's time for the brandy and the sauce. Turn the heat up, pull the pan away, add the alcohol, put the pan back. Warn the people around you what you're doing. Alright? Fire in the hole, flame on, whatever you want to say, but let them know what you're doing. So now we've deglazed properly with the brandy. We're going to reduce this sec. Then we're going to deglaze with the wine. Make sure you reduce that brandy to sec though. If you rush this part, it'll be too raw. The brandy will have too much of a raw flavor. Okay. While this is reducing, we're going to make our onions. You're going to take your onions.